Hi everyone, and today let's talk about some Manhunt stuff. Very underrated game by Rockstar. Especially I'm gonna explain every single Manhunt controversy. This will be wild. For background, this game was released by Rockstar Games in 2003, and it was a stealth game where the player had to kill gang members in brutal ways, while being filmed by a mysterious director. The murder controversy. The controversy reached a new level in 2004, when a shocking murder took place in the UK, and the game was blamed for it. The murder happened on February 26, 2004, in Leicester, England. A 14-year-old boy named Stefan Pakira was lured to a park by his friend Warren LeBlanc, who was 17 at the time. LeBlanc then attacked Pakira with a knife and a claw hammer, leaving him with more than 50 wounds. LeBlanc then fled the scene, but was later arrested by the police. He confessed to the murder and said that he had planned to rob Pakira to pay off a $5 debt to a gang. But the motive of the murder was soon questioned by Pakira's mother, Giselle, who claimed that LeBlanc was obsessed with the game Manhunt, and that he had copied the killing from the game. She said that the game was a psychological experience that encouraged brutal killing, and that it had blurred the boundaries between reality and fantasy for LeBlanc. She also said that she had found a copy of the game in LeBlanc's bedroom, and that the murder weapon, the claw hammer, was one of the weapons used in the game. Giselle's claims sparked a media frenzy, and many newspapers and TV channels reported that the game was responsible for the murder. Some politicians and activists also called for the game to be banned, and some retailers, such as Dixons and Game, decided to remove the game from their shelves. Rockstar Games, the maker of Manhunt, denied any link between the game and the murder, and said that the game was clearly rated 18 by the British Board of Film Classification, and that it was not intended for children. You know how all of this goes. The police and the courts rejected the claim that the game had influenced the murder. They said that there was no evidence that LeBlanc had played the game, or that he had owned a copy of it. They also said that the murder was motivated by fear and desperation, not by the game. They said that LeBlanc owed £75 to a gang called the Crusaders, and that he was afraid of being harmed by them. They also said that the claw hammer was not a weapon from the game, but a common tool that LeBlanc had found in his garage. On September 3, 2004, LeBlanc was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum of 13 years. The judge said that he had committed a truly appalling crime, and that he was solely responsible for it. He also said that the game had nothing to do with the murder, and that it was a red herring. Pakira's parents, however, still believed that the game had played a role in the murder, and they continued to campaign for the game to be banned. Well, I think that the game Manhunt is a very violent and disturbing game, and that it is not suitable for children or for people who are easily influenced by media. Keeping that aside, I also think that the game should not be banned, because banning a game would not solve the problem of violence in society, and it would violate the freedom of expression and creativity of the developers and the players. I also think that the game did not cause the murder, and that LeBlanc was the only one to blame for his actions. Blaming a game for a murder is a simplistic and sensationalist way of looking at a complex and tragic situation, and that it ignores the real causes and factors that contribute to violence. Manhunt 2. Controversy. The game is a sequel to Manhunt, which was also controversial for its graphic violence and dark themes. Manhunt 2 follows the escape of two inmates from a secret research facility who are hunted down by various groups of enemies. The game features a variety of weapons and methods to kill or incapacitate the enemies, often in gruesome and brutal ways. The game was met with harsh criticism and controversy from various groups, such as media watchdogs, politicians, parents, and even some gamers, who claimed that the game was too violent, sadistic, and immoral. The game was also accused of promoting and glorifying murder, torture, and mental illness. Some critics even compared the game to a snuff film, a type of illegal film that depicts the actual murder of a person. The real problem was legal challenges and censorship in several countries, especially in the United Kingdom, where the British Board of Film Classification, BBFC, refused to classify the game, effectively banning it from sale. The BBFC stated that the game was unremittingly bleak and callous, and that it constantly encouraged visceral killing with exceptionally little alleviation or distancing. The BBFC also said that the game had no artistic merit, and that it posed a real potential harm risk to both adults and minors. Rockstar Games appealed the decision, but you can guess it that the BBFC rejected the appeal, saying that the game was distinguishable from recent high-end video games by its unremitting bleakness and callousness of tone. The BBFC also said that the game had sustained and cumulative casual sadism, and that it lacked alternative pleasures for the player. Rockstar Games then took the case to the Video Appeals Committee, VAC, which overturned the BBFC's decision and allowed the game to be released with an 18 rating. But the BBFC challenged the VAC's ruling, and the case went to the High Court, which sided with the BBFC and reinstated the ban. Rockstar Games then modified the game by blurring and darkening the most violent scenes, and resubmitted it to the BBFC, which finally granted the game an 18 rating. The modified version of the game was released in the UK in October 2008, almost a year after its original release date. The UK was not the only country that banned or censored Manhunt 2. The game was also banned in Ireland, Italy, Germany, New Zealand, and South Korea. In other countries, such as Australia, Canada, France, and the United States, the game was released with an adult-only rating, which limited its distribution and sales. In some countries, such as Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico, the game was released with a lower rating, but with some cuts or edits. The thing is that the game also sold poorly compared to other Rockstar Games titles and did not spawn any sequels or spin-offs. Maybe Rockstar just stopped caring what other series. But what if I told you that there was a way to play the game as it was originally intended without any censorship or edits? Well, that's exactly what happened in 2009 when a hacker named GiggleCream leaked the uncensored version of Manhunt 2 for the PSP Online. This version was supposedly a beta version that was sent to the ESRB for rating, but was rejected for being too extreme. The hacker claimed that he obtained the game from a friend who worked at Rockstar and decided to share it with the world. So, what was so different about the uncensored version? Well, for starters, the game had no blur or filters during the executions, meaning that you could see every gruesome detail of your enemies' deaths. The game also had more and longer executions, some of which were cut from the final version. For example, you could use a syringe to inject acid into someone's eye, or use a pair of pliers to rip out someone's teeth. The game also had more blood, gore, and dismemberment, as well as more dialogue and cutscenes that revealed more about the story and the characters. The uncensored version of Manhunt 2 was a rare and sought-after item for many gamers and collectors who wanted to experience the game in its full glory. However, it was also illegal and risky to download and play, as it violated the intellectual property rights of Rockstar Games and the ESRB. The hacker who leaked the game was eventually caught and arrested, and faced serious charges and penalties. The game was also taken down from most websites and torrents, and became harder to find and access. So, was it worth it to play the uncensored version of Manhunt 2? Well, that depends on your taste and preference. Some people might argue that the uncensored version was more faithful to the vision of the developers and the genre of the game, and that it offered a more immersive and intense experience. Others might say that the uncensored version was too disturbing and gratuitous, and that it crossed the line of good taste and entertainment. Either way, the uncensored version of Manhunt 2 was a fascinating and controversial piece of gaming history, and one that will probably never see the light of day again. The Brazil controversy. In 2013, a Brazilian court banned the sale and distribution of Manhunt and Manhunt 2 in Brazil, claiming that they were harmful to the psychological health of consumers and incited violence and crime. The court also ordered Rockstar Games to recall all copies of the games from the Brazilian market and pay a fine of 5,000 reais, about $1,500 per day if they failed to comply. The court based its decision on a report by a psychologist who said that the games had a negative impact on the player's behavior and personality, making them more aggressive, antisocial, and sadistic. The psychologist also said that the games violated the human dignity and the right to life, and that they could trigger copycat crimes and mass shootings. Now, I don't know about you, but I think this is a huge overreaction and a violation of freedom of expression. I mean, come on, it's just a game, not a reality show. It's not like playing Manhunt will turn you into a serial killer or a psychopath. It's just a way of having fun and releasing some stress. And besides, there are plenty of other games that are violent and graphic, like Mortal Kombat, Call of Duty, or even Mario. Yes, Mario. Have you ever thought about how many Goombas and Koopas he stomps on and burns with fireballs? That's pretty messed up if you ask me. But no one is banning Mario, are they? But what if I tell you that some people did full-fledged research on this game? I'm not playing. Let me tell you. In 2010, A study by the University of Auckland in New Zealand, led by Dr. Craig Anderson, compared the effects of playing Manhunt 2 with playing a non-violent game, Lemmings, or no game at all. The study involved 98 male undergraduate students who were randomly assigned to one of the three conditions. They played the game for 20 minutes, and then completed several measures of aggression, hostility, empathy, and desensitization. The results showed that playing Manhunt 2 increased the levels of aggression and hostility in the players, compared to playing Lemmings, or no game at all. The players who played Manhunt 2 also showed lower levels of empathy and higher levels of desensitization, meaning that they were less likely to feel sorry for others and more likely to be indifferent to real-life violence. The study concluded that playing violent video games like Manhunt 2 could have harmful effects on the player's psychology and behavior, especially if they play them frequently and for long periods of time. The study was part of a larger meta-analysis, which reviewed 130 international studies with over 130,000 participants, and found consistent evidence that violent video games increase aggressive thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and decrease empathic feelings and prosocial behaviors in both Eastern and Western countries. The meta-analysis also suggested that violent video games could have a stronger impact on younger and more impressionable players who may not have the cognitive and emotional skills to cope with the violent content. Now, I'm not going to blabber again how video games don't cause violence, but don't you think it's insane how this research basically say that video games can be used to make people more violent? Basically a brainwash type thing. Many anti-gaming activists used this study to get some games banned, which, you can guess, were unsuccessful. But one success they for sure got was that we would probably never see a Manhunt game again. Not even remaster unless Rockstar decided to do something crazy. See, the thing is, Manhunt didn't sold enough for Rockstar to give a damn and handle all of the controversies. GTA sells like crazy, and that's why Rockstar Games will defend it to eternity. Now, let's talk about the execution scenes. These are the core gameplay element of Manhunt, where you sneak up behind an enemy and kill them with a variety of weapons, such as plastic bags, crowbars, baseball bats, and more. Depending on how long you hold the execute button, you can perform different levels of executions: hasty, violent, or gruesome. The more violent the execution, the more points you get, and the more graphic the cutscene is. These cutscenes show the protagonist, James Earl Cash, mutilating, decapitating, or suffocating his victims, often with blood splattering and bones cracking. These scenes were so realistic and disturbing that they made many people sick and uncomfortable. Some critics even called the game a murder simulator or a snuff simulator. So, in conclusion, I think Manhunt is a game that is not for everyone. It's a game that you either love or hate, or somewhere in between. It's a game that you have to play with caution and discretion, and that you have to be mature and responsible about. It's a game that you have to understand and appreciate for what it is, and not for what it isn't. So, that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more awesome gaming content. See ya.